Let's face it, poor quality search on your website is harming your business. Start delighting your users by effortlessly connecting them to what they need in the moment. To see connected search in action, schedule a demo today.
Hi, I'm Bruce Clay, and I'm excited to bring you the SMX Masterclass Advanced SEO Training. It's a pretty good course. It covers an awful lot of material. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Hey everyone, it's Jim Boykin from Internet Marketing Ninjas. I hope you're enjoying the SMX show. My company has been in business for over 23 years, specializing in content marketing and link building. So if you need help done the right way, let us know. Rock and roll.
Well, hello there, people. I'm Mr. Mountain, and I want to show you how proprietary technology makes it easy and affordable for any brand to advertise on TV at mountain.com.
We spared no expense.
Hello and welcome to SMX Next. I'm Danny Goodwin, Managing Editor of Search Engine Land and SMX. A lot has changed since SMX launched in 2007, but one thing that definitely hasn't changed in the past 15 plus years is our commitment to bringing you cutting edge tactics and top level content. And that's what these next 2 days are all about. SMX Next is all about focusing on what matters now in search marketing to help you plan for the future. To do that, we have nearly 50 sessions diving deep into PPC and SEO trends, tactics, tips, and technology, featuring some of the smartest search marketers I know. And take advantage of your opportunity to ask questions directly of these experts during our overtime Q&A sessions. I'm also excited to welcome back Google to SMX. We have 2 great keynotes for you kicking off both days of SMX Next. Today, you'll hear from Hyung-Jin Kim, VP of Engineering for Search, who joined Search Engine Land contributing editor Barry Schwartz. And tomorrow, you'll hear from Ginny Marvin, Google Ads product liaison, who joined Search Engine Land editor Nicole Farley. Speaking of tomorrow, if you have any burning questions, make sure to bring them to one of our 4 themed Coffee Talk networking events taking place 10 a.m. Eastern Time. These are extremely popular at SMX Advanced in June. And due to popular demand, we've now extended them to 55 minutes. They're only available live, so don't miss out. Now, before we kick off SMX Next, a few thank yous. First and foremost, thank you for joining us for SMX Next. We couldn't do SMX Next without you. So be honest and tell us how we're doing. Please share your feedback about the show early and often. At every presentation you attend, please use the rating tool on the right side of your session room screen. We truly appreciate and value your input. Also, thank you to our programming team and amazing group of advisors for the help shaping our agenda. I also have to give my thanks and appreciation to the entire Third Door Media team for all the great work you've done leading up to the show and all the behind-the-scenes work you'll be doing over the next 2 days. Thank you for all the time, blood, sweat, and tears you put into making SMX Next as great as possible. Also, thank you to all our speakers for all the truly helpful content. In true SEO fashion, our speakers are all bursting with expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And last but certainly not least, a big thank you to our title sponsors who help make this event possible. Thank you again for joining us at SMX Next. We hope you enjoy the show. And now I'll turn it over to Barry Schwartz to introduce our opening keynote.
Hey, I'm Barry Schwartz. I'm the news editor at Search Engine Land with you at SMX. I'm really excited to have HJ with us from Google. Many of you probably never heard of HJ, but he's been working behind the scenes at Google Search, building those algorithms. The reason why you rank number 1, number 2, or on page 10 is HJ's fault. No, I'm just joking. Thank you, HJ, for being here. Can you tell people who are watching who you are and a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. My name is Hyung-Jin Kim, but people at Google call me HJ because, well, no one can say Hyung-Jin. I joined Google about 20 years ago, and I joined the group called Search Quality, which is responsible for all the ranking, and I haven't left since. I was raised in the United States, grew up in Los Angeles, spent some time on the East Coast, and then went to back to the West Coast for Google. I grew up watching Star Trek, playing a lot of baseball. In fact, my aspiration as a kid was to grow up playing Major League Ball, but neither my height or any of my skill allowed me to do that. So poof, here I am at Google.
Interesting. You're a baseball. I grew up mostly a basketball guy. Also, same problem: height, speed, jumping abilities. But loving a sport doesn't mean you're really good at that. Good thing you have a backup. You're pretty good at writing code, I guess. So it's again great to have you and for you doing this. When did you start at Google? What year was that?
I have to do math, but it must have been 2003 or 4-ish, around there. Yes.
Very nice. Exciting. Well, again, HJ, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time out for this. I think you're a treasure to have at the show, and I really do appreciate you coming out and doing this with us. Could you tell the audience a little bit about Google's ranking team's core mission? What's your purpose? What's your mission? What's the team out to do out there?
Well, Google's core mission really is to organize the world's information. But I have my own personal spin on that. What's the most meaningful thing for me? And the way I like to put it is that, the way that I think about it rather is, 15 years ago, I was in an ICU room at a local hospital, bedside to my father who had a stroke. And I remember sitting there holding his hand for hours, just hoping that he'd wake up and tell me that he's okay. There was nothing I could do at that point. So I decided to make a ton of queries on Google. I remember from 4 a.m. to sunrise, I was making queries left and right. Everything from the different types of strokes, how to grade a stroke, how to get the best ICU care from nurses and doctors, and also, most importantly at that time, what are the chances that my father would recover? And I remember at the end of all of that, all those queries, I came across a forum, a website. I don't remember the name of the website, but I do remember the name of the person who posted a story about her having gone through a very similar stroke. It took a while, it took months, but she did recover and lived a very full life. And that could not have come at a better time because, it gave me hope. So I'm not a fireman. I'm not a policeman. I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. I'm not going to have someone come up to me and say, thank you. But this kind of work is important to me. It's a very meaningful thing for me. And to the day that I retire, it's going to be something that I treasure. By the way, my father is fine now. He recovered. And I remember looking up ways by which to help my father regain his motor skills. And I remember spending months throwing a ball back and forth with him. Nowadays, he's so sick of that exercise that once in a while I test him with the ball. And then nowadays he'll just grab it and just beam me in the head with it.
It was interesting because when I was telling my wife I'm doing this interview with you, and I'm like, you don't understand, this individual's in charge of so many queries that he is like a hero. You are like a hero. And because people go to Google with their most sensitive, their most, private, their most meaningful and scary queries, and how those results are ranked is very, very important. Almost, I don't classify, you probably don't classify yourself as a hero, as you said, but sometimes, you go to Google to get the answer to make you feel okay. Moving on from that, and it's really great to hear your father's okay. It's family is always number one, and to hear your mission, and that drives you. How do you define what search quality is?
It's interesting. Search quality is, just to kind of give a high level overview, it's that group within Google that's responsible for all the ranking on google.com. So everything you see on the page, we make sure that it's shown appropriately. On one hand, it's very much like a traditional engineering group. I've been in multiple companies in the past, and we build algorithms, we build systems, we try to write good code to make search work. But on the other hand, there is this streak, this streak of being much more research focused. A lot of us really enjoy working on things that are novel, things that are not obvious, but very intellectually challenging. So we really love to work on long-term projects that that are using the latest technologies. We're very we have a lot of mathematical rigor. We are very we're very much focused on metrics, but at the same time, we're the first person to be skeptical of all of that. And I think one of the best ways to describe search quality as well is that we actually put a lot of time in trying to be as empathetic to users, because the queries that come into Google search, sometimes they can be extremely short, but they can be incredibly meaningful, as you said, Barry. And our jobs really is to try to think about what is the underlying meaning. Like someone could come in, for example, typing the query depression, and yes, we can show very informational results about depression, but underlying that, maybe this person is asking for help. And I think it's search quality's job to understand that, to be empathetic to users, and try to pick up on that and build ranking systems to really help the user.
So that's interesting. So I guess how would that change? How would you classify spam versus search quality? Because it's also, I don't know if it's part of your team or some other team, but do you work on spam issues? And a lot of things like, yes, search quality is to improve the search results, but also spam is to improve the search quality of the results.
There are many groups within search quality that work on spam. Some in with my group and some not. But I would say that it would be wrong to think about spam as an entirely different group than say the people that work on the core algorithms. They're one and the same. I would strongly argue that. Yes, there are parts of spam, for example, that are working on the manual actions that do feel a little bit different, but in all, they're the same. Because in the end, we all come up with ranking algorithms. Thinking about using the latest technology to detect spam, everything from the old school link farms to the content farms that we saw a decade ago. Basically all these systems, all these people work on the same problem, and they approach it using the latest technologies and metrics and mathematical rigor as much as we possibly can.
Interesting. All right, very good. So over the year, you've been there almost since I've been writing about probably search, which is almost like 20 years or so. And my personal fascinations have been around all the algorithm updates. I mean, that's what I love to write about. That's what I love to cover. I love to cover the panic around it. And your team does most of these algorithm updates, from what I understand. So I've covered a lot of unconfirmed updates, a lot of confirmed updates. More recently, you've been confirming a lot of these updates. So thank you very much for being more transparent around these. I mean, the overall theme, dating from the early days to today with these algorithm updates, why do you do these updates? What's the purpose behind them? Can you tell us any stories around any of these updates over the years? I'm super curious.
The way that I think about it is that with these updates, I've been here for 20 years, as you say. In large part, in some ways, the updates are very much the same as they were a long time ago. In the sense that basically ever since my first day at the job and to today, we are still focused on trying to get content that is good for the user and trying to make sure that users are not seeing things of low quality or with low authoritativeness. This is something that we've done since the beginning of Google search. So, ever since, the Quadi days till even today with the helpful content update, even though the technologies are very different, and even though the actual types of content that we're targeting is going to be different, the through line is very similar. We're trying to help users as much as we possibly can. What's different, however, is the technology. When I first joined Google, I remember thinking that it was amazing what Google can do with understanding the query. I thought it was something that I would never thought any machine can do. But in the last 5 or 10 years, things have changed so much with the advances with artificial intelligence, namely using deep neural networks. This has changed the way that all of technology works, and we have fully embraced that within Google. And on the query understanding part that I discussed earlier about understanding the user's query, now we're leaps and bounds beyond where we were before, and I was incredulous almost as to what it can do. These deep neural networks are systems that I think one way to describe them is machines trying to mimic the way that human minds are built using neurons. And I remember a query that while debugging and researching one of our latest launches called Burton Search, one query that comes to mind that we were looking into that changed with Burton Search was this query, jewelry for work. Now, before Burton Search, this query, if you made the query, you get all these job notifications about working in the jewelry business. But once Burton Search came about, it really understood the entire query. It understood that the word "for" meant a lot, jewelry for work, and that it understood the context of everything, the context of the entire query, and we're now able to show results that are really about what the query is about, which is, what is jewelry? Where can I buy jewelry that is appropriate for work, or maybe even rough, or rather strong enough to take the hustle and bustle of a rough job.
Interesting. Yeah. So the query definitely, especially in the past, I think it seems like in the past 5 to 7 years, Google's understanding of queries has drastically grown. Me looking back, I'm like, okay, the caffeine index. You were able, back in the old days, it was like every 30 days you would go ahead and refresh the index. Then all the PageRank scores would update. It was like fun times. SEOs, I remember, used to literally watch the Google data centers to see what their different rankings would be on different data centers because they would be pushed out slowly. And now everything is so fast. A lot of these algorithms, indexing is immediate for many sites. Ranking algorithms are immediate. Query understanding is so much more improved. I mean, if I'm thinking back to the first big quality update that really shook, the one confirmed at least, shook the SEO and marketing industry was probably Panda. And I was wondering if you have any story or anything around that with the Panda update, why it was released, maybe looking back at it and be like, oh, this really solved a lot of issues. Could you share anything about that?
Yes, when I was my group actually did launch Panda back in the day. That was actually a pivotal moment for a lot of people. I know this. Panda, just to be clear, right now it's kind of evolved over time and is no longer Panda, I would say. Rather, it's been kind of more consumed into the larger core ranking algorithm. And then it was subsequently replaced by things like Coati and whatnot. Panda was incredibly important. And basically the reason why we did it is because we were worried, in a similar way that we're worrying about content today. We were worried that basically the web was going in a direction that we did not want it to go. And we wanted to help with it. We were worried that basically these things called content firms, I'm not entirely sure if everyone remembers what content or knows what content firms are. Basically, we saw sites that were clearly built, content that was clearly built just to rank on Google or other search engines rather than for the users. So I remember some sites, for example, where you would have literally 100 pages written about how to take a 10-minute shower, or a site that built hundreds of pages on how to cook a steak, and the first step on that page is find a pan that fits your steak. We didn't find this to be the right direction for the web, so we wanted to be able to find some way to promote better content above these content firms, and really try to get users to the content that they want, which is well-written human voices that spoke about people's experiences, rather than these short snippets of things that just seem to be there to get eyeballs rather than to really appeal to users' needs.
Interesting. So you mentioned, the algorithms sometimes are aimed at trying to improve the experience on the web, to improve the web as a whole. So I've seen that obviously with HTTPS security. I've seen that with page speed and page experience updates and stuff like that. But I didn't realize a lot of these updates are about encouraging webmasters, SEOs, content creators create better content. I always thought it was about there's really good content on the web, probably just rank the best content better because it was more about we want to satisfy the searcher's experience above all and all. Not necessarily about trying to promote better content creation, but more about trying to promote better content on the web in general. But you're saying it was actually also hand in hand, also making sure that people who are creating content are really encouraged to create better content.
Absolutely. I mean, you can only go so far with a stick, in my opinion. I mean, so the more we can encourage people with the carrot to create great content that will surface on Google.com, other search engines, or Discover, the better off we'll all be. I mean, and one way to think about it is that I kind of see the relationship between webmasters, SEOs, and Google to be a partnership. So long as the webmasters and the SEO community goes in the direction of building better content or building better information on websites, and we do a decent job of actually surfacing that content, we're going to be going in the same direction. And if we go in the same direction of really focusing on the user, I think in the end we'll all be in a better place.
Interesting. So it's just two clarifications on what you said. One is you mentioned twice this algorithm called Coati, what is this?
Yeah, Coati was a successor to Panda. It was an update to the Panda algorithm. As you know, Barry, we are tweaking our algorithms all the time. Things change. We have new signals. We have new metrics, for that matter. And as time evolved, we evolved Panda into Coati, which is also a black and white animal.
I never heard you guys reference that. Is that what you consider the core updates, or no?
I'm not entirely sure I would consider it a core update. Considered, I would say, more of an update to Panda.
Okay. So Panda is still in use. It just has a different name and stuff like that on some level.
It has evolved, and the best way to think about it is it's part of the core ranking algorithm today. Yes. Got
it. All right, cool. And so basically, even from like when I first started writing about Google back in 2002, 2003 with the Florida update, which you didn't call the Florida update, we have Panda, Penguin, core updates, product reviews update, helpful content updates, spam updates. All of this is aiming at two purposes from your team. One is to obviously rank the best type of content on the web for the user, so searchers want to come back and search more. And even that meaningful story you spoke about with your dad, really try to provide the best quality type of answers to the user. And two, to encourage content creators to create better content, right? So that's the overall mission there with these algorithms. Interesting. A lot of it has to do with, obviously improving quality, relevancy, understanding query is super important there, and obviously at the same time fighting manipulation, correct?
Yes, very much so, yes.
Cool. So obviously it's important, for Google with these updates, what should SEOs and marketers, creators think about when it comes to building out sites that really survive future Google algorithm updates? What, like the next Google algorithm update? Obviously, we recently had the helpful content update that kind of scared us, and we have spam updates all the time. People are constantly panicked. Even non-SEOs, creators are panicked about the next algorithm update. What should SEOs think about or content creators think about when it comes to the next algorithm update?
I think the best thing to do is simply, I go back to the message that I said before. I think the best thing to do really is about focusing on the user. Just imagine, for example, that someone actually has, a lot of link spam and the kind of spam that we saw before. I can imagine those people being scared about what the next update will do. But from my point of view, if webmasters and the SEO community really focuses on good content for the user, I think the person's going to be fine. And the reason for that, I can't guarantee that, of course. But in the end, the kind of things that we see on the internet nowadays is content such as misleading titles. People clicking on misleading titles, and where the user does not at all get the kind of content they want. I see content where someone clicks on a result and the actual meaningful part of the article is 12 pages down. I also see a lot of content where web pages are very thin. Whenever I'm in the market for buying a tennis racket nowadays, and the kind of content that I love to read, it's where clearly someone has done some study and actually experienced a product before they write a review on it. But I see so much of the content where basically people are just simply regurgitating the statistics or the specifications of a tennis racket in long form verbose content. That's not useful to users. And I think so long as the webmaster community and the SEO community really focuses on writing good content, that it's really geared for the user and not ranking on a search engine or Discover, or I think that's the best way to go.
Interesting, yeah, because a lot of the old SEOs were about specific tactics. I need more links. I need to put my meta tags in these areas. My title has to have this amount of keywords, and my content has to be this long. And that I found that even though the Google advice over the years, from the early days of Google Guide, Matt Cutts, John Mueller, etc., they're all saying, don't worry about that. Just package your content in a way that people want to read it. And people are like, okay, we get that, but how many keywords should I have on the page? What should be my keyword density? How many words do I need? And the same messaging has been, it's not about that. It's about creating something that your users would be happy with. I remember I got hit by a patent update on one of my websites, not Search Engine Land, another site, Search Engine Roundtable. And I'm like, and John Mueller's like, put a poll on your website, see if your people if they like the site. And I did, and they liked it. I'm not sure it's the best type of content. It's very short, thin, but I think it's about being true to your users and making sure your content actually satisfies the users in the long run. I know you've been saying that for years, literally 20 years. But now I think we're at a place where we can actually call that to be like, yeah, this is really what you need to do. It doesn't make a difference if the article is, 500 words or 50,000 words. If the article is appropriate to the query and it answers it, I think SEOs are now saying, yeah, that is definitely true. And I think your algorithms are at that point where you're at. It's funny because I remember walking after a conference I think in Vegas with Matt Cutts back in the old days. And that was when the time when the quality rater guidelines kept getting leaked. I don't know if you remember that. They were like quality rater guidelines and they were kind of being leaked by people. And I'm like,
remember that,
Matt,
yes.
Why don't you this is gold. They're not saying anything secretive. This is what people should be writing. This is content that people should be looking forward to. I'm like, why don't you release this to the public? And I don't think he left. And then I think somebody else in Google, I was able to actually go ahead and get those things published to the public. And it's great. I think now people are focused on EAT, expertise, authoritative, and trustworthiness. People are focused on building content based on these guidelines, which is, I think, providing them with a specification of how to write this content. What are your thoughts about EAT? Does it only apply to like the YM, YL, your money, your life categories? Does it go beyond that?
So just so that we can get everyone on the same page, EAT is a core part of our metrics, and it stands for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. This hasn't always been there in Google, and it's something that we developed about 10 to 12 or 13 years ago. And it really is there to make sure that along the lines of what we talked about earlier, is that it really is there to ensure that the content that people consume is going to be, it's not going to be harmful, and it's going to be useful to the user. These are principles that we live by every single day. And EAT, that template of how we rate an individual site based off of expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, we do it to every single query and every single result. So it's actually very pervasive throughout everything that we do. I will say that the YMYL queries, the your money or your life queries, such as when I'm looking for a mortgage, or when I'm looking for the local ER, those we have a particular eye on, and we pay a bit more attention to those queries, because clearly they're some of the most important decisions that people can make, some of the most important decisions they'll ever make in their lives. So I would say that EAT has a bit more of an impact there. But again, I will say that EAT applies to everything, every single query that we actually look at.
Awesome. And I guess if anybody really wants to dig deeper into what EAT means, it's not one ranking signal. It's not number of links. It's not a way of writing a specific content. You have a whole quality raters guidelines. You have a lot of content produced by the various Google teams about how to write stuff that is in that guidance. So definitely take a look at that, because you're not going to go through all those things, nor are you going to just talk about specific ranking factors. So I appreciate you talking a little bit about that. Since this is SMX Next, I'm curious, what's next for Google search? Are you going to be going ahead and flying balloons all over the place, dropping answers based on people's queries, or what's next for you guys?
There's a lot. There's a lot coming out. I think one main thing that we are working on right now is that we are actively making search more visual. And what I mean by that is that we've been working on this for years. If you've seen Google.com, especially on the web results, you'll see that things are much more image heavy, and we're going to continue doing more of this in the years to come. And the reason for this is because we want to make sure that users are getting to the results that they need and have a better means by which to make a decision as to what the best result is. And clearly, the world is becoming more visual, and that's the direction that we want to go in as well. We have things like multi-search coming out, and if you don't know what multi-search is, it's a means which we announced very recently in Search On. It's a means by which to to use Google or to query Google, not with text, but with an image. You can imagine looking at a part, some sort of weird part that you need for like plumbing or for that matter. You'll be able to search by just that image, or you can do image plus text query. And one of the most important things, one of the reasons why I'm extremely excited about this is because over the last, say, several years, or maybe even a decade, I've had a keen eye and a focus on the emerging markets within Asia. And, it really has, questioned how biased I am about how people use search. These emerging markets, people are very different from the way that I use Google search. They don't even come in with a preconceived notion about what search is. To them, it doesn't necessarily have to be a text query. It's probably more natural for them to use voice or an image for that matter. So that's where Google is going. We're trying to appeal to not only to people like myself, but to a broader audience who use Google, who will be using Google in different ways in the future. The other way that Google is going to change is that it's going to become, in my mind, more exploratory. And what I mean by exploratory is when you make a query today, say something about skiing. If you type in the word skiing, the first page, second page, all the way up to the 100th page is really optimized for that specific query. You might get 100 informational results about what skiing is on the 100th page. So what we've decided, where Google search is going to go, is that we're going to try to think about ways to be more helpful on the lower pages, second, third, and fourth. So once you've actually read, enough pages about what skiing is and how to go about doing it, the thought is that we can actually start suggesting new topics that are adjacent to skiing that would be incredibly useful for the user. Imagine if I type in the word skiing, or if I type in the query skiing, that we would recommend local ski resorts or lessons in local lessons, or even products that you will definitely need to buy to go skiing. So think of this as a new opportunity for webmasters and SEOs to get their content in front of more queries and more users than they have had before. It's going to be exciting. I'm really excited to see how the users will, how much we'll be able to help users, and also the webmaster community with these kind of changes.
Cool. I'll try to drop some links to some of the things you talked about, because I know visual search was recently announced. Also, the Explore feature, we've seen examples of that, so that's very cool. Are there sort of like structured data probably plays a role in this, but you probably don't depend on structured data to do all of that, correct?
Yes, I don't think we have. I'm uncertain as to how much we've actually put out into the public, but this is clearly something that we are going to do within search ranking algorithms. But structured data may play a part. Maybe this is something that someone else at Google is working on that I'm not aware of.
Okay. Anything specific with the helpful content update? Anything new coming with that you can mention?
Yeah, so the helpful content update is something I'm really excited about. This is something that my team has launched very recently. And it goes back to what I was talking about before. Ever since the quality days up until today, what really this is geared toward is trying to make sure that the user is getting more useful content. And we're looking to make sure that they're not going to see things such as misleading titles or things that are with web pages with content buried deep on the actual search engine result page, or thin content. We see a lot more of this on the web today, more than before. And we want to make sure that this doesn't become the overwhelming trend. I personally do not, when I make a query or when I'm using Discover, that I want to see genuine content written by humans that are really well-formed and has a lot of expertise. And the helpful content really is geared toward that. We'll provide we'll provide as much transparency on these launches as we possibly can. We've launched various things within Search Central. You'll see updates about the helpful content updates and all the iterations thereafter on Search Central. In so much as we've been doing a lot more transparent in the future, we hope to do a lot more transparency, be more transparent about these launches in the future as well.
Awesome. Looking forward to more of that. It's a very, I'm excited for it. I mean, I can't tell you how many articles I see with clickbaity titles or stuff that's trying to trick the user to think this is new, but it's refactored. It's just, for me, if you could put an algorithm that says if it doesn't have a date on it, and it should have a date on it, wipe the article off the internet. I'm just joking. You don't have to do that for me. And then, is there anything specific that you're doing like now for content creators that you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I think the Search Central is something that's incredibly important in my mind. That could be an incredibly useful resource for all content creators. We have made significant changes to it, and we will continue to do so. Not only will you see updates on the latest ranking changes that we will push out the door in the future, but we've updated to include some guidance on how to write content on the web and for the SEO community. So I think it's going to be a great resource for anyone in your audience going forward.
I appreciate that. I know you renamed Google Webmaster Guidelines to Google Search Essentials. I'm not a fan of the name, just to go on record. But
my decision, so I apologize for that.
It's all good. In any event, I really do appreciate you spending the time with us. Hope to catch up more and talk to you more, and looking forward to more updates. So keep it all the good work up, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching. Click the agenda link at the top of your screen to choose your next session.